Hi students, welcome to lesson 11, social research, elements, approaches, applied fields and emerging areas. Introduction. An understanding of the basic elements of research is essential for good research practices. Social research has diversified approaches. Social research becomes more relevant only if it can be applied to address various social concerns. Objectives. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to understand the elements of social research, approaches of social research, applied fields of social research, and also the emerging areas of social research. Let us begin by understanding the elements of social research. Some of the important elements of research are concepts and construct, variables, associations and cause-effect, hypothesis, research design, sampling, random selection, method and methodology, review of literature, fieldwork, ethics, data analysis and theory building. Let us understand what do we mean by concept and construct. A concept is a word which is so constructed and defined that observations become possible. It is an idea that is expressed in words. For example, socialization, development, social change, modernization, etc. Concepts are essential in the process of generalizing and form the basis of language. The concepts are explained through definitions. In social science research, it is necessary to define concepts before undertaking the research. The role of concept is to establish some kind of link with the social world. They are important in the theoretical framework that sets content for the research problem, determining the data collection and their categorization. A construct is a concept devised to aid in scientific analysis and generalization. For example, intelligence quotient, emotion quotient, GDP, that is gross domestic product, HDI, that is human development index, PPP, that is purchasing power parity. Variables. A variable is either a result of some factor or it is the factor that causes a change in another variable. In research, there are two types of variables, dependent and independent variables. The purpose of all research is to describe and explain variance in the world. Variance is simply the difference, that is, variation that occurs naturally in the world or change that we create as a result of an influence. One of the most popular examples to explain independent and dependent variable is in terms of medication. For instance, when a researcher gives an active medication to one group of people and a placebo or inactive medication to another group of people, the independent variable is the medication treatment. Each person's response to the active medication or placebo is called the dependent variable. Several things depend upon what the medication is for, such as high blood pressure or muscle pain. Therefore, in experiments, a researcher manipulates an independent variable to determine if it causes a change in the dependent variable. In descriptive studies, variables are not manipulated. They are observed as they naturally occur and then associations between variables are studied. In a way, all the variables in descriptive studies are dependent variables because they are studied in the relation to all the other variables that exist in the setting where the research is taking place. Associations and cause-effect are also important elements in research. The term association means that two or more things are related or connected to one another, like type of soil and agricultural productivity, group study and examination performance, height and weight, etc. Associations can be positive or negative. Positive associations suggest that when one variable is increased, the value of another variable increases. For example, good soil quality helps in good agricultural produce. Negative associations mean that when a variable is increased, the value of another variable decreases. For example, special classes are introduced to fail percentage decreases. Finding significant associations during descriptive or experimental studies facilitates in the development of programs or solutions to a particular problem. Hypothesis, which we have already discussed in lesson 6. It is an assumption about relations between variables. It is a tentative explanation of the research problem or a guess about the research outcome. A hypothesis carries clear implications for testing the stated relationship, that is, it contains variables that are measurable and specifying how they are related. Some of the examples could be: group study increases higher division achievement, job satisfaction decreases as working hours increases. Hypothesis should be empirically testable, whether right or wrong, should be specific and precise. Hypothesis helps in testing and suggesting theories, describing social phenomenon and refuting common sense notions. Research design is a strategy of conducting research. It plans as to what is to be observed, how it is to be observed, when, where and why it is to be observed, how to record the observations, how to analyze and interpret observations, and how to generalize. Research design is a detailed plan of how the goals of the research will be achieved. It is a master plan specifying the methods and procedures for collecting and analyzing needed information. The basic elements to be considered for making a research design are: stating the problem, whether it will be descriptive, explanatory or exploratory, action or theoretical research, and what will it contribute to academics or understanding society. Review of other studies, for example, going through the findings, hypotheses or theories developed by other scholars in one's own discipline or other disciplines. Operationalizing concepts is important in research design. Identifying the variables of the study, deciding the sample method and size, specifying tools of study, designing the kind of analysis, fixing time schedule is very critical in research design, since it provides various stages and describes time to be devoted to each stage. Budget is also a critical element in research design. Sampling is also a very important element in research. Sampling is the process of choosing participants, respondents for a research study. Sampling involves choosing a small group of respondents which represents a larger group. Sampling is used because it is impractical to include all members of a group, for example, all farmers in Telangana. However, sampling has to be representative to generate valuable and relevant information that can be generalized for the entire group. The part of whole can give sufficient dependable information if the procedures followed in selection of the part has been scientific. It is this part of a whole which is called sample. A proper sample must give a precise but correct picture of the population from which it is drawn. Sample must be obtained by probability process. This would permit the use of statistical procedures to describe and analyze the data of the sample. Sample should be small, economical, and gathered swiftly to be completed within the time schedule. There are broadly two types of sampling, as you all know, probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling is one in which one can specify for each element of population the probability of it being included in the sample. For instance, we can say that the probability can be expressed in the form of a proportion like that of getting a head in tossing is half, or say 1 chance in 2 trials. In non-probability sampling, one cannot estimate beforehand the probability of each element being included in the sample. It also does not assure that every element has a chance of being included. Random selection is a form of sampling where a representative group of respondents are selected from a larger group or population by chance. Universe or population can be defined as any collection of persons or objects or events in which one is interested. This can be done by identifying the population, for example, students pursuing post-graduation in Telangana universities, and randomly choosing a subset to participate, for example, selecting every 10th or 20th student from the list. This allows for each person to have an equal chance of participating in the study. Allowing each person in the population an equal chance to participate increases the chance that the smaller group possesses characteristics similar to that of larger group. This produces findings that are more likely to be representative of and applicable to the larger group. Method and methodology are significant elements in research. Method is the research technique or practice used to gather and analyze the research data. The data serves as the basis for analysis, without which no specific inferences can be made. The relevance, adequacy and reliability of data determines the quality of findings of the study. Data forms the basis for testing the hypothesis formulated in a study. The scientific process of measurement, analysis, testing and inferences depends on the availability of relevant data and their accuracy. The sources of data may be classified into primary sources, which are the original sources from which the researcher directly collects data that have not been previously collected. There are also secondary sources. These sources consist of already compiled data and have been compiled for any other purpose, for example, census reports, annual reports on currency and the finance published by RBI. The techniques of data collection include questionnaires, interviews, focus group interviews, observation, survey, case studies, diaries, experimental method, statistical method, etc. Methodology is the world view through which the research is designed and conducted. It is comprised of our standpoint, the theoretical and conceptual frame, and our method. As we have discussed in steps of research, review of literature is very important element in research. A literature review is a comprehensive summary of previous research on a topic. The review describes, summarizes, objectively evaluates and clarifies previous research. It not only gives a theoretical base for the research and helps the researcher to determine the nature of research, it also facilitates the researcher to develop a perspective on the same. Fieldwork. Fieldwork is the soul of any research. Fieldwork means the data collection stage of a research. It reflects the naturally occurring order of events and subjective meanings of those being studied on the basis of responses given by the respondents. Fieldwork uses survey methods such as face-to-face interviews, telephone, postal and online surveys or observation. Each of these methods require different degrees of skills and effort to administer the data collection process, execute the task of actual collection of data and to finally get the data ready for analysis. Ethics. Research ethics are very significant elements of any research. Research ethics focus on the moral principles that researchers must follow in the respective fields of research. Ethical decision making in academic research focuses on providing maximum benefits to the participants. Following ethical principles is indeed crucial for maintaining the research integrity. Ethical constraints from a moral perspective set boundaries and limitations on how we approach and undertake our research. As social scientists, one of the key ways is to ensure professionalism, integrity and transparency by making our research public. It is extremely significant to retain the confidentiality of the respondents' data and identity. Data analysis. Data analysis is the process of systematically applying statistical or logical techniques to describe and illustrate, condense and evaluate the data which has been either collected either through primary or secondary source. In most social research, the data analysis involves three major steps. Firstly, cleaning and organizing the data for analysis, which is the data preparation, describing the data, which is descriptive statistics, testing hypotheses and models, which is inferential statistics. We will discuss about these topics in our coming lessons in detail. Data preparation involves checking the data for accuracy, entering the data into the computer, transforming the data and developing and documenting a database structure that integrates the various measures. Descriptive statistics are used to describe the basic features of the data in a study. Inferential statistics investigate questions, models and hypotheses. In many cases, the conclusions from inferential statistics extend beyond the immediate data alone. Theory building. Theory provides a conceptual model for research and in turn contributes to theory. Theory is a set of systematically interrelated statements in the form of empirical assertions about properties of infinite classes of events or things. David Wetton, in his writing What Constitutes a Theoretical Contribution, suggests that there are four building blocks of a theory: constructs, propositions, logic and assumptions. Constructs capture the what of theories, that is, what concepts are important for explaining a phenomenon. Propositions capture the how, that is, how are these concepts related to each other. Logic represents the why, that is, why are these concepts related. Assumptions examines the who, when and where, that is, under what circumstances will these concepts and relationships work. Approaches to social research. There are various approaches to social research depending upon the theme of the research. Some of them are primary and secondary research. Primary research is also called field research. According to Gretton and Jones, primary research refers to research that has involved the collection of original data specific to a particular research project. For example, through using research methods such as questionnaires or interviews. Primary research offers several advantages including specificity. Primary research meets the specific needs of the researchers. However, it is time consuming and difficult. If the sample is not big enough, the results of the research may be misleading. Secondary research is also called desk research. In this type of research, the researcher relies on existing sources of data. Government survey research reports, census company websites, news reports, magazine articles are some of the sources of secondary data. Secondary research is usually carried out at home or library with the help of secondary sources available online or in print medium. Ideographic and nomothetic research. 19th century German philosopher Wilhelm Windelband, a neo-Kantian, introduced these terms and defined their distinctions. Windelband used nomothetic to describe an approach to producing knowledge that seeks to make large-scale generalizations. This approach is common in the natural sciences and is considered by many to be the true paradigm and goal of the scientific approach. With a nomothetic approach, one conducts careful and systemic observation and experimentation to derive results that can be applied more broadly outside the realm of the study. An ideographic method focuses on individual cases or events. The ideographic approach involves trying to uncover a great deal of detailed information about a narrower subject of study. Sociologists can combine both ideographic and nomothetic approaches to develop a more comprehensive understanding of society. Deductive and inductive approaches to research. According to Grattan and Jones, deductive approach involves testing of a predetermined theory, explanation or hypothesis. This approach helps researchers establish a hypothesis by using existing theories. Existing information is analyzed to accept or reject the hypothesis in order to achieve the research aims. Deductive research is a focused method of testing hypothesis. According to Grattan and Jones, inductive approach generates the explanation from the data collected. It is the opposite of deductive research. It aims at exploring a new theory. It is about moving from specific observations to broader generalizations and theories. Informally, we sometimes call this a bottom-up approach. Inductive approach is flexible as the researcher does not have to follow any predetermined information. However, critics would argue that if observations are incorrect, the researcher would end up in incorrect conclusions. It should be noted that deductive approach is usually adopted by researchers conducting quantitative research, while inductive approach is usually adopted by researchers conducting qualitative research. In a nutshell, both deductive and inductive approaches play an important role in research. Quantitative and qualitative approaches are also used in research. In some studies, qualitative and quantitative methods are used simultaneously. Let us now discuss the applied fields of social research. It is as huge as an ocean. Applied research aims at finding a solution for an immediate problem facing a society or an industrial or business organization, whereas fundamental research is mainly concerned with generalizations and with the formulation of a theory. Applied research can be done by an individual researcher, government, company or research agency in order to address a specific problem. There is difference between applied and fundamental or basic research. The findings of applied research can be applied to resolve issues, whereas fundamental studies are used simply to explore certain issues and elements. These topics we have also discussed in types of research. Moreover, the differences between applied and basic research can be summarized into these points. It is a kind of a revised points. A research that takes place in an everyday context to solve specific problems of individuals, organizations or industries is called applied research. Applied researchers do not usually seek to solve big unanswered questions about the universe or society. Rather, their goal is to simply generate answers to solve specific down-to-earth problems using sound evidence and thinking. The significant criteria for good applied research design includes these aspects. Firstly, validity, which includes construct, statistical, internal and external validity to determine whether the research is free of biases, distortions and unsupported assumptions and conclusions. Secondly, reliability to establish the trustworthiness of the research studies. Thirdly, effectiveness and efficiency of the research design. Fourthly, feasibility to understand whether research is feasible for the time, expertise and resources within which one would operate. Fifthly, relevance and sufficiency of the research design. Some of the significant fields of applied research are demography and social statistics, methods and computing, development studies, human geography and environment planning, economics, management and business studies, education, medical sociology, social anthropology and linguistics, law, economic and social history, politics and international relations, psychology and sociology, science and technology studies, social policy and social work, gender studies, criminology and juvenile delinquency, social patterns and meanings, organizational behavior, sports psychology, etc. Let us try to explore some of the emerging areas of social research. Several areas of research are emerging and having its impact on policy formulation and implementation. Some of these are program evaluation research, quantitative and qualitative research, working with a hospital or community health center to improve access to health services for people with low literacy skills, designing surveys and collecting data for purpose of tracking public opinion, creating profiles of various populations, for example, Aboriginal people, or measuring change in specific social indicators like fertility, cohabitation, poverty, educational attainment, racism, happiness, etc. Studying the social impact of emergency communications during and after a crisis so that emergency planners can improve communication procedures. Working with a community organization for disadvantaged youth, differently abled and marginalized communities. Conducting participatory action research in partnership with the community to find out what kind of economic development would work for that community. Understanding and resolving issues in group and organizational dynamics within an institution. Sociological theory, methods and findings through related disciplines such as urban planning, community development, communications, criminology, social work, etc. Women's studies, gender studies, racial and indigenous studies. Themes like religion, demography, population studies, issues and challenges like land rights and livelihoods, development, displacement and disparity, education and human rights, social anthropology and tribal conflicts in contemporary times, inclusion and exclusion processes, themes like governance, civil society, public sphere and citizenship, globalization and its impact, corporate social responsibility, industrialization, migration and urbanization, social participation and social change, casteism, communalism and its emerging trends, social problems like poverty, unemployment, conflict resolution, public sociology, social engineering, artificial intelligence and digital technologies, disaster management. The list is not exhaustive. The areas of social research are emerging to meet the diversified needs of human society and community so that we can make this society a better place to live. Dear students, let us summarize this lesson. An understanding of the basic elements of research is essential for good research practices. Some of the important elements of research are concepts, constructs, variables, hypothesis, research design, associations, sampling, random selection, techniques of data collection, analysis and theory building. There are multiple approaches to research like primary, secondary, idiographic, nomothetic, qualitative, quantitative, inductive and deductive. Program evaluation research, quantitative and qualitative research, development, displacement and disparity, education, human rights are some of the emerging areas of social research.